I'm Liam.
I'm Wayne,
You're listening to In Film We Trust YouTube.
a place where we post clips from our recent episode.
All links down below in the description.
And now, on with the show.
So yeah, Aaron goes and waits in his car when there's no answer at the door. And how are we introduced to the second protagonist of this, or antagonist, whatever way you want to say it?
Well, as we were talking about subversion before, he's literally introduced through a jump scare.
This film loves a jump scare, Wayne.
It does love a jump scare. I think, though, again, we'll get to more later, I think it's making fun of the jump scares.
Yeah, they're in on, this is what I said, they're in on the joke. They're not thinking this is greater than.
When I watch horror films nowadays, whenever a jump scare comes on, I start rolling my eyes. I get so fed up with it.
Oh, lazy filmmaking.
It's like, oh my god, a door slammed. Oh my god, a light came on. But for here, yeah, like I say, I think it is used to its advantage.
Yeah, but this film appreciates brevity because the two main characters are introduced to one another within 4 minutes. 4 minutes of the film were introduced.
Straight away, they're put together, yeah. And like I say, Joseph, because he sat in his car, Aaron, and then Joseph like, wah, like that.
Right, he's right at the car window.
Yeah, very good. I was like, is this a cheap tactic or is this just a way to introduce us to his, let's be honest, kind of bizarre personality?
Yep, Joseph, played by Mark Duplass, is a very, very peculiar man.
Do you know one reason I think he wanted to play this character? Because he has a very serial killer-like smile, I thought.
Do you think? Well,
pretty scary smile.
Mark Duplass he says there is elements of himself in Joseph.
Well,
he said the ability to adapt to their personality to different situations, he only amplified it to predatory levels for Joseph.
I'm not working with him in the future.
Yeah, that makes him sound a bit off. But yeah, Joseph is very over-friendly.
Very, very kind of almost too ingratiating. You know the people that I've met people like this. I remember when I was in Perth in Australia, I was sat next to a guy in a train station. Within 5 minutes, he was telling me all these personal details. It's like this kind of almost too ingratiating.
Was he drunk, Wayne?
No, I don't think he was. I think he was on his way to work.
Well, that makes it worse. That makes it worse.
It does make it worse, yeah.
So what's the driving force here, Wayne? You tell us. Why are we introduced to Joseph? What's the driving force of Joseph? Aaron there?
What's happening is Joseph, as he tells us, he has an inoperable brain tumour. He said he's a cancer survivor.
Yeah, liver to lungs first.
Liver to lungs, but now that's gone, and now he's got an inoperable brain tumour. He's married to a woman called Angela, and she's pregnant with their son, who they're going to call Buddy.
Well, it was Buddy not in... What? There was another horror film with a guy called Buddy. Was it Chucky, maybe? Buddy Doll?
I don't know. No, that was just a Chucky... No, Good Guy Doll.
Good Guy Doll.
Yeah. But it must be Buddy. But what he wants is Aaron to film him for the day, as we find out. He wants to film him for the day, just doing things with him, introducing himself, because he thinks he might not be around for Buddy's birth. He might not be around to see him grow up and whatnot. So he wants to capture himself now.
The warts and all of who his father is, doesn't he?
But he wants to have good memories of him.
Yeah.
Joseph has a lot of lines in this film, which when you watch it through, don't think too much of. But when I watched it back, lines like, "This is going to be a good day," or "Bear in mind, he's just met him here. You have a really nice, kind face."
Yeah.
And he hugs him almost straight away. And what I like is another one of these things. He says, gives him a big hug straight away and says, "It's not weird," which is exactly the kind of thing a person would say before or after doing something weird.
Joseph is set there from the start to be, you're suspicious of him.
I think straight away they put us on a kind of edge, like not knowing which way Joseph will go.
But you don't know at the same time, are they setting him up as the fall guy, but he's not going to be the bad guy? Because you do kind of think that at the start.
There's some ambiguity at the start, I'll have to say, yeah.
And then we're introduced to Peach Fuzz.
Mr. Peach Fuzz. Peach Fuzz, the wolf, which...
It's a face mask.
It's a mask that the dad made, apparently.
The dad created, and he does this strange little dance, and he sings a little tune saying, "I might look like I'd eat you up, but I'm as friendly as a rabbit," which I think speaks to the psychology of Joseph.
I think I was going to say, as soon as he sung that song, I thought, is this song just a child song, or is it a song that's reflective of his own psychology, his own personality?
Throughout this whole film, there's these little Easter eggs and nuggets, and he's almost explaining his own psychology to the audience. Did you find that?
Yeah, it's like he's slow dripping his personality. Yeah, I very much got that. Little bits like that. And he says, so they're doing this Peach Fuzz thing, and then he takes them away on it's like a forest trail.
This is where you're furthering the psychology of Joseph.
Exactly. They've been introduced. We kind of know who they are, but then they're going to kind of move.
Because the whole first act of this film is basically Joseph ingratiating himself to Aaron, and he's over-friendly, he's overcompensating, but there's nothing really malicious at this point. You may think it's just a strange guy who's overly familiar? Because we've all met them kind of
I was going to
people.
say, at this point, you're thinking, this is a kind of strange guy, but I know people like this. I've met people who are like this. It's like they're kind of socially awkward, and their compensation mechanism is to be too friendly.
Too friendly.
Basically.
Or they'll try and buy your affection. If you're at the pub, they'll beer after beer after beer to try and ingratiate into your group.
Yeah, well, he is buying him food.
Well, he is buying him food, exactly. And a weird question Joseph comes up with. Is there something you're ashamed of? So this is for me where the psychology changes.
It is. It's also a weird question because I can't think of many people who aren't ashamed of something they've done in the past.
And do you know what's even weirder, I think, than the question?
Hmm?
Was the answer.
Joseph says, another kind of weird line, he just says, I lied to you. And it's a sentence that's given a lot of weight because there's a long pause afterwards.
Yes.
It gets to this point in the film where Joseph will say something, Aaron won't immediately respond. There'll be a time where it's like he's thinking, what's the right thing I can say, maybe not to upset this guy?
Is this where we're heading when the camera turns off, Wayne?
It is. Not turned off, it's placed down. Does he place down
No,
and
no,
cover
but
it?
Joseph thinks the camera's turned
He
off.
does think, yeah, but we don't see anything because the camera's like covered up.
But we do hear everything.
But we hear, and he has the conversation. What I liked about this is there's almost a change in the audio quality. Have you ever watched shows where it'll show interviews that people had with people like Ted Bundy
Yeah.
or Eileen Wuornos, that kind of cassette tape or recording quality? It sounded like that. It's like a camera or like a recorder's been placed in a room with a
Do
serial
you know what it
killer.
made me feel? Almost like the speech Joseph is to tell. It's more confessional.
It is.
It has that confessional quality, like you're being interrogated.
It essentially is a confessional.
Yes.
It's a very bizarre story.
And do you want to say what Joseph tells?
Well, the story is he was looking...
Because now when you said Joseph said he lied, now Joseph is going to tell us what he's ashamed of. Yeah.
Exactly. But then again, this could be a lie as well.
Well,
But
yeah.
he opens his internet browser and there was animal porn on it.
But it wasn't his.
Now, because only him and his wife have access to the laptop, he assumed that she had done it, and she confronted him. He said no. Then he went and bought the Peach Fuzz mask. So already what he said earlier about it, that's a lie, because he says he bought it from a shop. And then he essentially, be honest here, he essentially broke in and raped his wife.
Tied her up and raped her.
Raped her. No, he refers to it like animalistic sex.
Animalistic.
Like animalistic lovemaking, but it comes later. He says, basically, I raped her, yeah. And he says she enjoyed
And
it.
she enjoyed it. And he leaves out the window. Mm-hmm. So she doesn't know it's Joseph at this point, apparently.
Yeah.
And the next day was she happy or nonplussed or?
He said, how was your day? And she didn't make any kind of remark on it at all. Like, it's just a little thing that happens. And this is a very noticeable kind of tonal shift because now Aaron is clearly a lot more hesitant about this guy.
A little interesting anecdote about the Peach Fuzz mask that I think Duplass commented on. He said, when we found him, meaning the mask, we kind of knew immediately that it defined the movie very well. You see that in the right light, it's very goofy and it's very funny and there's a sweetness to it. And then all of a sudden, you turn it at an angle and you turn off one lamp and it turns terrifying. That's kind of the essence of the film.
Just like the song you sung earlier, there's bits about, being nice as a rabbit, but then I'll eat you up. So
Which is Joseph in a nutshell.
So it's almost like kind of the dichotomy of his personality.
Okay, so the camera comes back on after Joseph's confession. And Aaron's wanting to leave.
Yeah.
Anybody would be kind of disturbed in that
'Cause
situation.
Joseph is saying something, he's trying to wrap this up, but he doesn't think it's very good. But Aaron, at this point, is like, oh no, that was fantastic. I don't think he thinks it is fantastic.
No.
He just wants to get out as soon as he can.
Because I get the impression Aaron didn't want. He knew at this point that Joseph was messed up, and when you are in fear of somebody, you try not to anger them. So
Yeah.
he kind of placates him.
He
He doesn't use the Joseph confession as a huge deal and starts shouting about.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, I'm gonna go now, etc.
He tries to say as little as possible. And
Yeah.
at one point, Joseph actually says to him, this was a strange line. He said, did I freak you out with my rape story? That is
Yes, mate.
There's a line I've never heard spoken. And, well, what other answer would you give to that?
So what do you think that plays into the psychology of Joseph?
Is it like him almost acknowledging the weirdness?
Well, this is what I said to you before. There's almost this thing where he thinks if he's overly friendly, he can almost say anything he wants. He thinks it gives him free rein to reveal the dark side of him.
Well, because at this point, I think he knows Aaron is not going to say anything to upset him.